Can you explain exactly what happened? Who's eligible?
Sure.
Is the Supreme Court going to come and reverse this tomorrow? Like, talk about the whole thing.
Absolutely. So the numbers you gave got us to a bigger number. So the number that I want to share with you is 1 million people, 1 million public servants. These are, teachers, nurses, everybody that we called essential 4 years ago during the middle of the pandemic, right? Firefighters, police officers, veterans. So 1 million people hit that threshold of getting public service loan forgiveness. So that means that they've been working in the public and they've been helping their community get better. And because they've worked in public service for 10 years, paid their loans for 10 years, their loans are forgiven. 1 million people, totaling over $75 billion there. But let me take another step back. Since day one in this administration, we've provided $174 billion to about 5 million people. Really, really intentional to make sure we're addressing some of the racial wealth gap in this country, addressing the fact that college has become out of reach for too many people. But the announcement last week and the 1 million person threshold that we got to is something worth celebrating, because that system was around for about 5 or 6 years. It just didn't work. And we were able to fix it so that we got to 1 million people. And I want people to apply for it. Public service loan forgiveness is available if you visit studentaid.gov. Even if you're close to the 10-year mark, we want people to apply for it so that when you hit the 10-year mark, your loans could be forgiven.
So who's the people that can actually take advantage, like public service? What professions? Who's actually eligible for this?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. And there's more information on studentaid.gov, but let me break it down, like, just for the listeners that are like, okay, do I qualify for this? If you work in the public sector, government jobs, if you work, I was in Atlanta last week with the mayor's team over there. His assistant got over $200,000 in debt forgiven. Anyone that works in a 501c3. So, if you work for a 501c3, you're eligible for public service loan forgiveness. If you're a nurse, if you work anywhere in the hospital, if you work anywhere in government, if you work anywhere in the education system, I got bus drivers, paraeducators getting debt relief, school principals, professors. So it's not just the teacher, it's the public sector. Again, more information on studentaid.gov. You can see if you qualify for it. People that work in local government, making their community better. The intent there was to help people who choose a life of public service, which we know a lot of Black and brown borrowers do. They get debt forgiveness because those jobs are they're not going to be making millions in the public sector. They're making their community better, and that's worth debt relief. And that was passed in bipartisan fashion, I must say.
Secretary Cardona, again, thank you for joining us. I actually am one of those people who qualify for loan forgiveness. Was in public education for 13 years. You talked about things being fixed now when you hit this 1 million person mark. There's 43 million people who have student loans. When I applied earlier, 5-6 years ago, it was really difficult to even qualify. Every time you applied, the metrics changed, then the qualifications changed. And then what are some of the things that you had to fix and have overcome now to make this process a lot easier for people who have actually done the public service, who have overcommitted to community enhancement? What have we done to make this an easier process?
First, we had to believe in it. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. The last administration didn't want it to work. 98% of the people, you being one of them, were denied. And that's intentional, man. You don't do that by accident. 98% of the people being denied. So when President Biden took over, Vice President Harris, they realized we gotta get this program working. So they directed me and my team to fix it. So what we did was, there was a lot of red tape. There was a lot of misinformation given during those 10 years where people were working or people were in the wrong loan, but they were never told that. Or there was a technicality. They might have missed the payment by 2 days. So now they said, nope, you're done. We fixed all that. We cleaned that up. We removed the red tape. We made it simpler. We gave some folks that were pushed into forbearance, without knowing that it's affecting their PSLF. We cleaned up their records, so they started with a blank slate, and we counted those months. So we got rid of all of the shenanigans from the last administration to make it simpler. We also streamlined the process and made the application process simpler. And now we're doing it in-house, where before it was a separate contractor that was dealing with it, and they didn't prioritize it. We are prioritizing this. So we're streamlining the process. As a matter of fact, what we're trying to do is make it so that you don't even have to apply. You work 10 years, you serve for 10 years, we come to you saying your debt is forgiven. Those are some of the things that might get lawsuits, but the public service loan forgiveness fixes that we did cannot be sued. It was passed by Congress in bipartisan fashion. It was mishandled in the last administration. We just cleaned up the mess, and now we got 1 million people. Compared to their 7,000 people in 4 years, we got 1 million people in 3.5 years.